called 911. He stated that he didn't know where he was at, that his car is in the water and sinking.
He's possibly going to be out of oxygen.
And I was unable to be able to ping his location from our system.
At this point, it ain't good.
I've tried calling him back numerous times, and I'm not able to get him back.
George Treadaway was lost on the line.
This ain't no wild goose chase. That man's in trouble.
Gordon County 911 won't release his call because they say he drowned on the phone with the dispatcher. But the county didn't even send anyone out to search the floodwaters for his sunken car until his family reported George missing nearly 5 hours later.
Gordon County 911.
We're trying to find my daddy-in-law, and he usually takes Reese Station Road, but we know that's flooded. But we can't get him on the phone or nothing. We don't know if he's been involved in a wreck or if y'all know anything about him.
Okay, we've not had any wreck.
Yeah, he's on oxygen, and I know his oxygen tank's got to be near empty.
This is where George Treadaway called 911 from his sinking car. But to the 911 system, George's phone was invisible, and so was he. Dispatchers couldn't see this location on their screens. Instead, they were beginning more than 5 miles away and a 10-minute drive. It was the cell phone tower location. George and his phone briefly showed up here because the tower address is often the first thing a dispatcher sees, and in this case, it was all they had to go on because George and his phone weren't here either. So the 911 dispatcher called the cell phone carrier. The operator there tried to ping George's phone, but it was likely already underwater. The last known location of George's phone was more than 3 miles away from the tower, in the other direction. The cell phone carrier had George's last location here, but this is still more than 3 miles away from where George Treadaway was fighting for his life. Rescuers had 2 addresses to begin searching for a drowning man. Both turned out to be dead wrong.
Did you get the tower it hit off of at all? Because I am showing that the device was 3.39 miles from that tower to the southwest.
Show any water around in that area?
There's no lake or nothing around there. It's just all pine trees.
What did he say when he called in?
He said, I'm stuck in the water.
There was no water on that wooded hill because George called 911 from the flooded valley 3 miles away.
We found out the next day that there had been a 911 call.
But somehow Gordon County dispatchers didn't know one of their own 911 operators had already talked with a drowning George Treadaway hours earlier.
He did tell the dispatcher that the car was filling up with water, and they could hear that on the 911 tape.
I got a bad feeling about this. Something's wrong.
Okay, we'll continue to look for him.
George's body was pulled from his sunken car 2 days after he called 911 for help.
We were very disappointed in the 911 system.
I'm trying to find you on our map.
You can't find the address? No. For what address, ma'am?
Give me the address one more time. It's not working.
The 11 Alive investigators discovered cell phone callers are lost on the line by 911 every day.
They received a call from a female that said that she was in the lake and losing air.
A year ago, Chanel Anderson was trapped in her sinking SUV in Cherokee County, but her 911 call got picked up by the wrong call center in Fulton County.
Yeah, we got one vehicle. It looks like it's all the way underwater right now.
They found her too late to save her life.
Your own commission said 911 is broken in Georgia. What are you going to do to fix it?
Well, you know, 911 systems are run by local jurisdictions.
A year ago, we asked the governor about this 911 modernization report he commissioned, a report completed while Chanel Anderson and George Treadaway were both still alive.
Your commission recommended that there be a state agency that oversees 911. Are you in favor of that?
Well, I haven't made a decision on that.
We asked the governor and his staff the same questions about his 911 commission report again and again, 9 separate times via email and in person over 12 months. After a year of no answers and another death, the investigators caught up with Governor Deal at a transportation news conference.
I asked you a year ago, I'll ask you again, have you done anything with your own 911 commission report?
We have put funding into 911 for local communities, but as you know, those are operated by local systems of government.
Well, then why appoint a commission to create a 99-page report and offer 8 different recommendations if you're not going to do anything
about that? You should come to some other venue rather than this one. If you want to ask about what we've talked about here today, I'll be glad to answer your question, but that is not what we're talking about.
These people died on the roads.
I understand that, and we are concerned about that, and we're trying to do what we can about it. But you're here asking questions about nothing that we're talking about today.
How many more of your constituents have to die before you take 911 modernization seriously?
I don't mind answering some of y'all's questions if you want to.
We live in 2016. 911 is stuck in 1996. Our smartphone knows where we are no matter where we go. Press a button, it takes us home. Press another, a car shows up. We can summon Uber quicker than an ambulance, police car, or fire truck can find us through a cell phone call to 911 because the current system still uses technology developed 20 years ago.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
I'm in a car in a lake.
Where?
I'm losing the air very quickly.
Give me the address one more time. It's not working.
Chanel Anderson was lost on the line. Her 911 call was routed to the wrong call center, and her phone never told dispatchers where to find her sinking car.
Ma'am, I lost her.
Do you believe that this technology would have saved her life had it been in her hands?
Without a doubt. There is no question.
Fred White.
When we call 911 through the cell network, we're ending up in the wrong jurisdiction.
And Michael Self.
Enough is enough. We're in a position to be able to do this. Let's solve this problem.
Are inventors determined to fix 911.
Every 30 seconds that is spent on 911, telling them who you are, where you are, what's going on, and how to get there, counts towards that golden hour.
We're parked at the edge of the same pond where Chanel Anderson called 911 to test the existing system.
Okay, here we go.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
This is not an emergency call. This is a field technician test call only. Can you please validate the address on your CAD display? Do you have phase 2 on me yet?
Yes. Well, actually, no.
Okay.
Now what's phase 2?
What's the phase 2 address?
Phone is showing 300 Batesville Road. My CAD is showing 374 Gables Walk.
Both of those are the cell tower. That's still about a mile away. Is this Alpharetta?
It is. We're in the wrong jurisdiction.
That's exactly what happened to Chanel's 911 call. She was in Cherokee County, but her call hit a tower in Fulton County.
Give me the address one more time. It's not working.
Then the inventors call 911 using the same phone, but with their technology activated. It's called laser, and it uses the phone sensors to determine precise location before routing the call to the correct 911 center.
Cherokee County 911, what's the address for emergency?
This is not an emergency call. This is a technician field test call. Could you please verify the address on your CAD display?
Phone display showing 1 the Fairway.
It's 1 the Fairway in Woodstock,
Georgia?
Yeah,
showing 1 the Fairway.
That's it. That's where we are.
Using our technology, we were able to call and be located within a few feet of where we are sitting, and we were delivered to the correct 911 jurisdiction for this location.
Did our investigation actually lead to you accelerating this technology?
Yes, actually, as a matter of fact, it did.
Right after this test, another caller was lost on the line.
He stated that he didn't know where he was at, that his car is in the water and sinking.
We're sitting within feet of where George Treadaway unfortunately lost his life while trying to get help through 911 while his car was sinking.
He's going to be out of oxygen.
Nearly a year to the day after Chanel Anderson died in Cherokee County, George Treadaway drowned in Gordon County.
And I was unable to be able to ping his location from our system.
With 911 location data miles off the mark, it took 2 days to find his car on Reeves Station Road.
Gordon County 911.
Can you please tell me the address that is currently showing on your screen?
I'm showing 1975 Reeves Station Road.
Great. And do you have a latitude and longitude?
Yes.
So we've just called 911, and Laser has us located on Reeves Station Road, right where we actually are and where we would want emergency services to come find us.
And this could have saved George Treadaway's life.
I believe so, yes.
We offered Gordon County operators an opportunity to see the new technology. 911 Director Debbie Vance, president of Georgia's Dispatcher Association, declined, writing, "The phone carriers have not heard of it, and they feel from the description we have had so far, this is a carrier issue and not a public safety answering point issue. If all carriers are not part of it, I don't see how it will benefit anyone."
There's a side of this that's sad and tragic. There's also a side of it that's just infuriating.
Fred calls Gordon County again, this time deactivating his invention and using the system George Treadaway relied upon.
Can you please tell me the address that is currently showing on your screen?
458 Brown Farm Road.
He gave us, I believe, 458 Brown Farm Road, which is the location of the nearest cell tower to us. By road, it's a little over 5 miles, and it's about a 10-minute drive.
This is the same 1996 technology 911 uses to find all of us when our lives are on the line.
In an emergency situation, a matter of a minute or two can be the difference between life and death.
It's patent pending, but Fred and Michael aren't waiting for their application to be approved. They're already working directly with cell phone carriers to get them to adopt the technology as soon as possible. It works with existing 911 systems, and they say it won't cost subscribers or 911 call centers a penny. Melissa.
Sounds wonderful. It kind of, correct me if I'm wrong here, looks like an app. So if it is, how do I get it?
Yeah, this is it. It does look like an app, doesn't it? Well, right now it is an app, but it's just in beta testing. The inventors are working to get this baked into the firmware of all phones to protect everyone without us having to buy or download anything. You'll simply call 911 and the technology will work in the background.
But still beta testing prototype at this point.
We're still waiting.
Yes, there's a head-on collision, Wilson Industrial Boulevard and Amber Road.
There's an accident out here, and there's somebody that's injured.
It's really bad.
There's a female passenger that they pulled out of the car.
The collision happened right here at this intersection. And this is where the lady and the children have been pulled out of the car.
Okay, so numerous parties that are injured. Okay.
But I do see 2 people on the ground now instead of just 1.
I was the closest person to the accident.
Wes Price knew exactly where he was.
Cobb County 911, what's the location of your emergency?
I'm on Fulton Industrial Boulevard, and I am just north of I-20.
All right, hold on 1 second. You're in Fulton County. You've got Cobb County. Let me transfer you to Fulton.
His 911 call hit a cell tower in Cobb County, costing 30 seconds before a transfer to Fulton 911, and yet more precious time to transfer to a third emergency call center in the city of Atlanta.
Atlanta, this is Fulton with a transfer. Call advise if you're at Amber Road and Fulton Industrial Boulevard, and I'll stay on the line as well.
Okay, Amber Road and Fulton Industrial. That's on Fulton County. And is this Fulton County?
This is Fulton County, but it's showing Atlanta. That's why I was calling. I said I was going to stay on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
yeah, it's coming up.
But it's showing for us that it's going to be in the city. Amber Road is not on us. We don't have Amber Road.
Okay, because it's coming up with me with South Fulton, so it's not going to allow me to dispatch.
They were wasting time, in my opinion. They were on the phone wasting time that mattered. Could have mattered in someone's life.
Do they have the physical address?
There is my physical address. I can get one nearby, probably.
So I pulled into the neighborhood and drove down the neighborhood and gave them an address off of the first mailbox that I saw.
771 Amber Road?
771 Amber Road, yes. It's just right off Fulton Industrial.
Okay, see, that's still coming up South Fulton County for me.
More than 4 minutes after his first 911 call to Cobb, and 3 different operators haven't asked what the emergency is.
I don't think that they were all that concerned about responding until I finally said, hey, look, there's an injury out here. They're pulling a lady out of a car now.
Atlanta, we're going to respond out, but also if you could respond out as well. If you could check Carroll Road and Amber Road, I'm sure that's near that area as well.
It is.
Carroll and Amber still doesn't come up for me. It says South Fulton.
They're arguing back and forth, Fulton County, City of Atlanta. I think Fulton County's coming out.
Every second feels like an eternity, and you're on the phone with 911 and you're listening to 2 dispatchers arguing over whose jurisdiction it is.
The time that they spent going back and forth about who was going to cover the emergency, I thought was valuable time, critical time, could actually matter, whether someone lived or died.
Fairman Engine 38, respond to Fulton Industrial Boulevard and Amber Road on an auto accident with injuries.
38.
Atlanta Fire was dispatched 4 minutes into the third call.
Atlanta.
We have fire and police en route. We had to force something through for them to go to that area.
You may know the exact spot you're calling from, and your phone likely knows where it is. But your actual location has nothing to do with which 911 center gets the call. It's always the cell tower address, which is why dispatchers have such a distorted view of your location. And emergency calls routinely go to the wrong city or county.
911 operators are doing the best that they can with the system that they've got right now.
And the system is broken.
That's exactly right.
Fred White is the co-founder of Laser, a patent-pending technology we've successfully tested at the scenes of fatal 911 calls from Georgia to Prince's Paisley Park.
Cobb County got this call, not Fulton, not Atlanta, and then Atlanta and Fulton argue over whose jurisdiction it is.
If you start out in the wrong jurisdiction, right, from where you actually are, that dispatcher then has to try to figure out where you are and then route it to who they think is correct.
The FCC put the laser team on a task force.
We're in the wrong jurisdiction.
Trying to fix the routing problem.
Is it fair to say that essentially we're using 20-year-old technology to call 911?
It's not only fair, it's just factually true. When you use your cell phone to call 911 right now, you are going over a system that was designed and has not been fundamentally changed in 20 years.
So, Brendan, what about laser? I mean, we know that it works, so why don't we have it on all of our cell phones?
It's really frustrating, Brenda. The laser team is close to announcing agreements with some cities and phone carriers, but to get this on every phone, they'd have to have universal adoption by all the phone carriers or a mandate from the FCC requiring it, and that has not happened.
Yeah, that is the frustrating part, isn't it? Because we have a fix.
Yeah, and we are going to stay on this until we get this fixed.
All right, Brendan, thank you.
2 years ago, a woman drove into the Cherokee County pond and made a desperate 911 call while trapped in her sinking car. Now, she did not die in vain.
11 Alive Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe is now concluding his 2-year investigation with the solutions that fatal call inspired. They're solutions that could save tens of thousands of lives every year.
911 was the address of the emergency. I'm in a car in a lake. Where?
The haunting last words of Chanel Anderson.
I'm losing it all very quickly. Give me the address one more time. It's not working. Ma'am, I lost her.
Words that could not summon help in time to save her life, but Chanel's final breaths would rise above the darkness of this Georgia pond to make all Americans safer.
We're on the cusp of really solving the problem we set out to solve.
It's amazing.
Laser is a now patented solution that fixes both 911 routing and location problems.
Let's solve it. Let's make the world a better place.
Created when inventors saw our investigation of how Chanel Anderson was lost on the line.
A lot of times it takes media coverage to get the awareness out there for people to say, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was a problem. It took that sort of eye-opener for us to say, okay, we can fix this.
Maximize the number of people's lives we could save.
Making sure it goes to the right place, from the moment that the call starts, that's life-saving.
The 3 most important things in 911, location, location, location. The 3 things that cost Chanel Anderson her life. First, the pond was on the wrong side of this map, causing her emergency call to go to a cell tower in the next county. That 911 center's maps stopped at the county line, which means the dispatcher couldn't see this address on her screen in order to send help and possibly save Chanel's life. Now that is fixed. Alpharetta expanded its geographic information system to include the neighboring jurisdiction. And the FCC, as a result of our investigation, warned all 911 centers nationwide to expand their maps as well.
By 2021, carriers deliver a usable location for callers 80% of the time, which sounds impressive until you put it like this.
6 years from now, 911 could still be unable to find 1 out of every 5 emergency callers.
That's not good enough.
Our multi-year investigation was picked up by HBO's Last Week Tonight as John Oliver spent more than 15 minutes exposing the absurdity of 911 location mistakes.
And while Georgia law does require an actual committee to help develop plans for 911, it's not exactly a robust body.
This is it. Georgia's permanent 911 advisory committee. You'll notice all 15 seats are empty. There's no one at the mic, and there's nothing on the agenda. This committee hasn't met for years because there isn't a single member currently appointed.
How the is that possible?
Georgia law requires the governor to appoint 15 members to that 911 committee. He hadn't appointed even 1.
Those are operated by local systems of government.
Why appoint a commission to create a 99-page report and offer 8 different recommendations if you're not going to do anything
about that? You should come to some other venue rather than this one.
We confronted Georgia's governor in January after he had already dodged our 911 questions for a full year, spanning the time between the drowning deaths of Chanel Michael Anderson and George Treadaway.
How many more of your constituents have to die before you take 911 modernization seriously?
The governor walked away, but we weren't done holding him accountable. We followed up with the equivalent of a legal brief, pointing out the law requires the governor to appoint members to the committee, and there is not a clause that allows the governor to waive this duty. In May, Governor Deal finally filled these seats with 15 new members, including the top lobbyists for Verizon and AT&T. Yet the committee room remains empty because the 911 Advisory Committee still hasn't called a single meeting in the 7 months since it was reconstituted.
Laser will be in people's hands on a very large scale just in a few months.
That's right. Laser, the life-saving invention we successfully tested in the field, will be pre-installed in every phone produced by one of the biggest handset manufacturers in a matter of months. You'll simply call 911 and seamlessly the invention will get you to the right 911 center, plus the dispatcher will know immediately where to send help.
You can save 10,000 people's lives every year by shaving a minute off of response times.
I cannot get this address to come up.
And they're screaming, call 911.
I'm trying to find you on a map.
You can't find the address? No. For what address, ma'am?
Give me the address one more time. It's not working.
This is about saving lives.
For the 11 Alive investigators, I'm Brendan Keefe.